So this morning when I was making my other video, which took me pretty much half of the day, I came across this that Representative John Lewis had died at the age of 80. And that's very sad. I guess he led us to this point. He did fight for civil rights with Martin Luther King. So I guess once he reached heaven, and he'll meet Dr. King and let him know, if he hasn't already known, how much progress we have made. But he left us where our progress might be in question right now. So I thank him for his service, for all he's done. Sometimes there are people who take on certain work that is not just about themselves. They do it mostly for others. So I thank him, his family, for all he has done. So now I'm going to go to this article. It's from times.com. So let's see what they say. Okay, we have To Redeem the Soul of America, John Lewis on what's changed and what hasn't since the March on Washington. That's John Lewis right here. This sort of look like Aretha Franklin. Yeah. But anyway, let me continue reading. On the day of March of Washington, I was very excited about being able to speak to the crowd about civil rights. I was ready. Philip Randolph introduced me as young John Lewis, National Chairman, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. I said to myself, this is it. I must do my best. I looked to my right, I looked to my left, and I looked straight ahead, and I went for it. I think often about young John Lewis today. I will tell him, you got out there. You pushed and you pulled. You helped lead a movement to make things better for this generation and for generation yet to come. So it's almost what I was saying earlier before I even click on that. I come in contact with a lot of young people, a lot of young children. These kids are so smart and so gifted. If we have been that smart and that gifted, we will be much farther down the road. So when it comes to this, it's just that every generation reach a certain level, and then the next generation should continue. So without some of the things that he did, I don't think our generation right now, based on what he's saying, would have been capable. So it's one generation lead the next. That's how I believe it. The same way as technology, if you look at old technologies, computers, when you look at it now, you'll be like, how did they use this? Why would they do something like this? But without it, we will not have the computers that we have right now. Same as telephone and anything else. But that's beyond the point. Let me get back to the article. We have come far since there, but there is still such a distance to travel. So many of our people are suffering. When we come to a point in our nation where little children, babies, are being taken from their parents and put in cages, I don't think history will be kind to us. See, the thing is that it's people who sit down and don't say anything. That's the people that history will not be kind to. But definitely the people who are doing those hardship, those kind of punishment, history will not be kind to them. But if you speak out, you do what you can in the position that you are in, I think history will look you in a different way. So I think I should put my thought as I read, because sometimes when I come back to the articles to where I thought of something, I completely forgot. So I'll do that as I continue reading. I have never witnessed anything like what we are going through today, not during the 1960s, in spite of everything that we came through, the arrest, the jailing, the beating. Something is happening in America today that is frightening. What is happening is a threat to our democracy, and sometimes I fear that we are in the process of losing it. So when I think about that, it's just that certain people that's where leaders rise up. That's where new leaders is born, pretty much, when in situation like this. But we must never lose hope. We must keep the faith, keep building and working hard to create what Dr. King and what others call the beloved community. We have to redeem the soul of America. Lewis is the U.S. Representative of Georgia's 5th Congressional District and a member of the 2017 Time 100. This article is part of a special project about equality in America today. Read more about the March Time, virtual reality, recreation of the 1963 March on Washington, and sign up for Time History newsletter for updates. What is that? Okay, so I believe this is something that he had said, but let me go look for something about him. Alright, so that's where I got my picture. Oh, I should pick on news. Okay, so pretty much he was born John Robert Lewis is an American politician and civil rights leader. He is the U.S. Representative for Georgia's 5th Congressional District, serving in his 17th term in the House, having served since 1987, and is the Dean of Georgia Congressional Delegation. Alright, so that doesn't look good right now for November. Alright, BBC, CNN.com, was that the one? Let's look at New York Times. Okay, John Lewis, towering figure of civil rights era, dies at 80. Okay, Representative John Lewis, a son, sharecroppers, and an absolute nonviolence apostle of nonviolence who was bloodied at Selma and across Jim Crow South in the historic struggle for racial equality, and who, when carried a mantle of moral authority into Congress, died on Friday. He was 80. His death was confirmed in a statement by Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Mr. Lewis, a Georgia Democrat, announced on December 29 that he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer and vowed to fight it with the same passion with which he had battled racial injustice. I have been in some kind of fight for freedom, equality, basic human rights for nearly my entire life, he said. On the front line of the bloody campaign to end Jim Crow laws, with blows to his body and fractured skull to prove it, Mr. Lewis was a valiant stalwart of the civil rights movement and the last surviving speaker from the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom in 1963. More than half-century later, after the killing of Mayor of George Floyd, a black man in police custody in Minneapolis, Mr. Lewis welcomed the resulting global demonstration against police killing of black people and more broadly against systematic racism in many corners of society. He saw those protests as a continuation of his life's work, though his illness had left him to watch from the sideline. It was very moving to see hundreds of thousands of people from all over America and around the world take to the street to speak up, to speak out, to get into what I call good trouble, Mr. Lewis told CBS this morning in June. This feels and looks so different, he said to Black Lives Matter movement, which drove the anti-racism demonstration. It is so much more massive and all-inclusive, he added. There will be no turning back. He died on the same day as did another civil rights stalwart, the Reverend C.T. Vivian, a close associate to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So there was somebody. Okay, I'll come back to this. There's a link. Mr. Lewis' personal history paralleled that of the civil rights movement. He was among the original 13 freedom riders, the black and white activists who challenged segregation interstate travel in the South in 1961. He was founder and early leader of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which coordinates lunch counter sit-ins. He helped organize the March on Washington, where Dr. King was the main speaker on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Mr. Lewis led demonstrations against racial segregated restrooms, hotels, restaurants, public parks, and swimming pools, and he rose up against other indignities and second-class citizens. At nearly every turn he was beaten, spat upon, and burned with cigarettes. He was tormented by white mobs and absorbed body blows from law enforcement. On March 7, 1965, he led one of the most famous marches in American history, and the vanguard of 600 people demanding the voting right that had been denied. Mr. Lewis marched part ways across the Edmund Meadows Bridge in Selma, Alabama, into a waiting phalanx of state troopers in riot gear. Ordered to disperse, the protesters silently stood their ground. The troopers responded with tear gas and bull whips and rubber tubing wrapping a barbed wire, and the melee which came to be known as the Bloody Sunday. A trooper cracked Mr. Lewis' skull with billy club, kicking him to the ground, then hit him again when he tried to get up. Wow. God have mercy on our souls. Open heaven for him. Okay, televised images of the beating Mr. Lewis and scores of others outraged the nation and galvanized support for the Voting Rights Act, which President Lyndon B. Johnson presented to a joint session of Congress 8 days later and signed into law on August 6, a milestone in the struggle for civil rights. The law struck down the literacy test that black people had been compelled to take before they could register to vote, and replaced segregationist voting register with federal registers to ensure that black people were no longer denied the ballot. Once registered, millions of African Americans began transforming politics across the South. They gave Jim Carter, a son of Georgia, his margin of victory in 1976 presidential election. A popular poster proclaimed, "Hands that once picked cotton now can pick a president." And their voting power opened the door for black people, including Mr. Lewis, to run for public office. Elected in 1986, he became the second African American to be sent to Congress from Georgia since Reconstruction, representing a district that encompasses much of Atlanta. Conscious of Congress. While Mr. Lewis represented Atlanta, his natural constituency was disadvantaged people everywhere, known less for sponsoring major legislation than for his relentless pursuit of justice. He was called the Conscience of Congress by his colleague. When the House voted in December 2019 to impeach President Trump, Mr. Lewis's word rose above the rest.
We cannot delay. We must not wait. Now is the time to act. I have been patient while we tried every other path and used every other tool. We will never find the truth unless we use the power given to the House of Representatives and the House alone to begin an official investigation as dictated by the Constitution. The future of our democracy is at stake. There come a time when you have to be moved by the spirit of history to take action to protect and preserve the integrity of our nation. I truly believe, the time to begin impeachment proceedings against this president has come. To delay or to do otherwise would betray the foundation of our democracy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
When you see something that is not right, not just, not fair, you have a moral obligation to say something. Wow, I just said something before, just like that. He said on the House floor to do something. Our children and their children will ask us, what did you do? What did you say? For some, this vote may be hard, but we have a mission and mandate to be on the right side of history. His words resonate as well after he saw the video of Minneapolis police officer kneeling on Mr. Floyd's neck for more than 8 minutes as Mr. Floyd gasped for air. It was so painful, it made me cry, Mr. Lewis told CBS this morning. I think I saw this video. People now understand what the struggle was all about, he said. It's another step down a very, very long road toward freedom, justice for all humankind. You have a lot of words to take to God, Mr. Lewis. When he was younger, his words could be more militant. His story remembers the March on Washington for Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, but Mr. Lewis startled and energized the crowd with his own passion. By the force of our demands, our determination, and our numbers, he told the cheering throng that August day we shall splinter the segregate South into 1,000 pieces and put them toward the image of God and democracy. We must say, wake up, America, wake up, for we cannot stop and we will not, and cannot be patient. His original text was more blunt. We will march through the South, through the heart of Dixie's, the way Sherman did. He had written President John F. Kennedy's Civil Rights Bill was too little too late. He had written demands, which side is the federal government on. But Dr. King and other elders, Mr. Lewis was just 23. Wow. Worried that those first draft passage will offend the Kennedy administration, which they felt they could not alienate in their drive for federal action on civil rights. They told him to turn down the speech. Still, the crowd estimate at more than 200,000 roar with approval of his energy utterance. Earnest men who lacked the silver tongue of other civil rights orators, Mr. Lewis, cool, pugnacious, tenacious, and single-minded, that he led with a force that commanded action. You know, sometimes we have to thank all the others who stand by and help what we have now, like this young man. He probably lost a tooth there. Okay, so that's Mr. Lewis and fellow freedom rider James Berg after they were attacked by segregationists in Montgomery, Alabama in May 1961. I don't know if he's still alive, but may all of them rest in peace. Oh my God, it's too long, so I'm not gonna continue. There's too much. Yeah, that's too much. I'll put the link of this in the description. Already up to 16 minutes. So where was that other thing I said? I'm gonna come back. His original text, Marshall, Washington, Minneapolis officer, Neonville. I did see that CBS video on TV, not on YouTube. Voting Right Act. Where is one of the most famous ones? That's not it. This one. He died the same day as did another civil rights stalwart, the Reverend C.T. Vivian. Who is he? I'm not sure. Who is he? Okay, continue. Okay, I don't have subscription for that, so the other one was free, so I don't have that. So let's see, what else can I maybe let's look for some okay, that's the video that I just finished. It just finished process. Let's see, Google. These are some information out of John Lewis. So then YouTube. Let's see, what do we have for John Lewis? Okay, I want a small video reaction to the loss of John Lewis. John Lewis, Good Trouble, official trailer. I want it, okay. Maybe by the time I keep on waiting, searching. Okay, this one an hour, so that's okay, you could rent it. Okay, 2 minutes 32. Okay, let's look at the trailer and see what happened.
My philosophy is very simple. When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, say something, do something. Get in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble.
He was always different than every member of Congress. Everybody knew what he had done. He was John Lewis.
We're marching today to dramatize to the world hundreds and thousands of Negro citizens denied the right to vote.
Congressman Lewis gave us the blueprint to organize and to legislate.
The reason why he's effective as a leader is because he lived it.
We made a decision to march in an orderly, peaceful, nonviolent fashion from Selma to Montgomery.
Your order to disperse that march will not confess.
This is some of the thing I just read.
I was hit in the head. My knees went from under me. I thought I was going to down the bridge.
If John Lewis as a 19, 20-year-old wasn't doing what he did, I would not be here.
We will march with the spirit of law and with the spirit of dignity that we have shown here today.
The whole time he was in the movement, it was frightening, knowing the danger, knowing what could happen.
You cannot replace John Lewis.
He's the most courageous person I ever met.
Too many people struggled and died to make it possible for every American to exercise their right to vote.
He challenges the conscience of the Congress.
Bring common sense gun control legislation to the House floor.
40
continues to inspire us.
Are you with me? Let me hear you. 3 civil rights workers that were murdered for trying to help people get registered to vote are looking down on us.
This is a time for action. That's what I learned from John Lewis.
There are forces in America today want to take us back, but we're not going back. We're going forward.
Okay. So pretty much I'm just gonna show her. Oh man, she's scaring me. I'm praying for her to recover because we don't want to lose her. All right, let's go back. As I was watching the trailer, all I was thinking is that when you are passionate about something, you really want something, you don't see the fear of what's gonna, you don't care about any other thing but what you are trying to fight for. As I was watching that's what I felt. I felt the energy, the eager for what he was fighting for. So sometime it's like what's that thing, when a fighter get in the ring, there's either gonna be someone win or someone loses, but you so passionate about what you doing, you don't see the fear of anything. You just want to go at it. Your what's that word, adrenaline is rushing on you. You're at the moment. But anyway, it is sad to see him gone. And right now, America is at a brink. All the fighters, freedom fighters, all the civil rights leaders, all those who are challenging the status quo, they did their part, but they are dying. And I believe we have some few left, and I'm afraid, I hope they hold on until after the election. Anyway, it's sad to hear that he's gone. But then again, I don't want to be selfish about it. I don't want when somebody is sick, who's suffering, to be in bed suffering. So I hope he didn't suffer while he was sick. But anyway, I wish him, rest in peace, and hope his family holding on really well. Thanks for his service.